Today we have Kim Shine with us, and most folks who listen to this podcast know that I love to start with a cute, quirky, fun question. Are you ready for yours?
I am, and thank you for having me on the podcast.
Of course. Okay, so I consider you this premier media professional here
Thanks.
in Milwaukee.
I appreciate that.
Okay. All right, so this is an easy one. What is your favorite form of media and why?
Now, why do I have to get the easy question? Give me a hard question. I will answer that, but think about a hard question. Okay. I want a hard one too. My favorite form of media? Honestly, it is television. So I am an avid fan of the visual medium because there's so much more that you can do with it, and when you are able to see, that's less that you have to say. So it's a challenge to make sure that you're showing the right things so that whoever is looking at whatever audience you have is seeing and then internalizing the message that you're trying to create.
Would it be accurate to say that it is probably one of the more honest of the forms of media, whether it be articles, because you can see, hear?
I'd say so, because you can gather that for yourself from what you're seeing. Audio probably would be next. And I know folks might say, oh, social media, but I am a traditional media person. I have nothing against social media, but social media incorporates all of that. So for me, it's TV.
Okay. So what do you feel your personality embodies more? The mic or the television or the camera?
Okay, now that is a harder question.
The blog, written word.
Man, I don't know.
You asked for a harder question.
I did. Maybe when I was like a baby journalist, I'd probably say print because that's where I came from. I'm a print baby, but now I don't know because I've done so much, and I've been fortunate enough to stay in media and go through different parts of this industry. So I don't know. I'm a little bit of all of it. Seriously.
Okay. You know what? That feels right though. I was reading about how different generations adapt or adjust to change, and specifically around technology. And it is the millennials, I'm going to make an assumption that you're a millennial with me, that can sort of relate to both sides.
Yeah.
Where maybe like
our
parents, our parents' generation cannot relate as much.
I answer a lot of questions about Facebook with my dad. I love him, but that is why we have the same phone. That's why he's a very smart guy, but there are some things. I get a lot of phone calls and text messages.
Sure.
Okay.
No, I definitely can relate. Whereas like we came in the space of like, dial up, right? Where like we didn't necessarily have phones,
my favorite.
But we also understood, an online presence because it was MySpace at the time, right? And so we sort of carved a pathway for Gen Z to come in and you set the culture for what it's like to express yourself or to create a personal brand online. And so we kind of know the benefits or have like the best of both worlds.
Right.
Because I saw a picture recently where it's like there was a time where the only way that you kind of knew where somebody was looking outside and seeing their bikes outside of your house, right?
And I grew up in part of that too. I mean, that didn't last very long, but I grew up in part of, if you go outside, you better be home when the street lights come on, or somebody's grandma is going to be screaming out the door trying to figure out where you are.
Do you remember your first cell phone?
I actually do, and it didn't work.
It didn't work? What?
No, because my dad, my dad didn't get me a cell phone, I think probably until I was in high school. But my uncle, who was a little bit more progressive, I would say, for different reasons, he gifted me an old Nokia, I think, but we never turned it on. So that technically was my first phone. And then who knows what I had. I remember I had like a silver flip phone.
Razor?
I love it.
Was it
I
Razor?
never got a razor. I was not a razor girl.
You didn't want it?
Nope. Did not want it.
I felt like everybody, like Razor had a chokehold on everybody and every music video girl.
They did, but I was a BlackBerry girl. I loved BlackBerry. After the flip, I had a slider too with the keyboard, and I'm just saying, I think those should come back. I know
really?
Kendrick Lamar is bringing back a phone that has no social media on it, and I really I want that phone. I love having Instagram and everything. I don't have Facebook on my phone. It's too much. But I like that access, but I would prefer to have some time to myself where you don't have to be so in tune.
Yes. So that's a big one, actually, because I am always so shocked when I get a notification how many hours I spent a day on my phone. I'm like, that can't be right. Like maybe this is mixed up or it's counting a different app or something. I don't know. But it says sometimes that I'm on there for 9 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's scary.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because, and I also say this coming from a media perspective, because I didn't always have my phone with me. But when you are a reporter, normally you have two phones, your personal and then one from your station or whatever outlet you're from. And I'm speaking from TV from that perspective. But you always have something with you. So if you're on your phone, the key is that you're multitasking. So you probably feel like, how have I been on here for 9 hours? It's because you've been doing it while you've been preoccupied with something else.
Fair. Okay, that's true. And so
it's kind of scary. But
it is scary. And so I think also it takes into account like podcasts. You're technically on your phone, like be driving, right? Or audiobooks or even like Zoom meetings.
Right.
But still, for something to take up that much of your time that is not another person, is, to me, it's alarming. And so,
not another person, in person.
Yes. There you go. And it's alarming to me, and I am trying to figure out ways to like unplug more. Because 9 hours is a lot. I feel like 3 hours is a lot. Like, and so when I saw like 9 hours, I'm like, I feel like I go to work. You're supposed to go to work for like 8 hours a day or whatever. So it's just interesting just to see how like millennials for sure have experienced life without that and now life with it. And so a Gen Zer recently used the term that we are generation digital nomads.
Okay.
So kind of like traveling, I guess, from the age of like, less digital engagement or, incorporating into our life into now having to. And they're like digital natives, where like they were kind of born into it.
Okay.
Into this space. And I was like, I don't know that I accept that label.
I don't accept the nomad label.
I don't know that I accept that, but I was just listening to them talk to me. And I think it's just, interesting how we generations perceive other generations, especially as it relates to how we adjust to technology. But, shout out to millennials. I think nobody's done it better. But let us now share with the listeners, like, who is Kim Shine?
Oh, I don't know. I'm a lot of things. My full name is actually Kimberly, so I guess we could start there. But what do you have other questions for me?
Yeah.
I don't like to talk about myself. It's kind of
so let's start with
Google and see, I guess.
Well, let's start with talking about your career. Okay, so how did you get into the field of? Is it safe to say media, or would you call it something else?
No, I would say media. So I've always been a writer, and my mom passed away when I was a kid. And so through that and like the guidance of my dad and all that stuff, I got more in tune with the world around me and being informed and all that stuff. And so that's how news really became like a primary focus for me. When I was in school, I was always doing the school newspaper and all that stuff and taking down systems. Like I was. And just making sure that people were treated fairly, people had a voice, and if you wanted to say something within reason, that you could. So kind of just started there, and then went to school for it, and here we are. Like started in print, did TV, now I'm in radio, and I said earlier that I am very grateful that I've been able to stay in the business and do so many different things, because what's wonderful about media is you can be in front or you can be behind the scenes. And there's so many different opportunities that folks don't even think about. And so just to be able to
elaborate, what kind of opportunities?
So in television, I was a reporter. I was an anchor. I was also a producer. I shot my own stuff. So I did my own video. I edited my own things. I also wrote. When you produce the show, you are curating the entire show. A reporter only has like a minute or two in the thing, you know, but the producer's actually crafting what they want the person to see and how they want them to feel. So that there. And then now that I'm in radio, I had some experience with radio beforehand because I have a friend back home in Chicago who used to work in radio. So got a little bit of experience just kind of seeing what it was like. And now that I'm doing this, I'm doing audio production. I'm using the skills that I had from news. I'm still doing interviews, but I'm not just doing my own. Like I'm editing podcasts. So you know what I'm saying? There's so many more things. And I've done I've worked on many, I won't say mini documentaries, but they are longer form projects. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
That's
so
awesome.
There's just so many opportunities that you can do. And it's not just local news. I really encourage people when they get into media, if you are in college, go beyond communications. Like there's so much more. Do not fall into that trap.
Okay.
Especially athletes. Like do not fall into the trap of communications.
Why do you think people end up in communications?
Because it's easy.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It is.
You said it.
It's not a focus. Journalism is a focus. Public relations is a focus. But comm is just the overarching. And you should just really think about it. Like, do you want to be a production assistant? Do you want to edit audio? Do you actually want to be in front of the camera? Should you be in front? Like, I think a lot of folks also, and no matter what field you're in, you should know your skills, but also know which place suits you best.
Yes.
So just long answer, but that's how
I love that.
That's where I am.
That is really great. And I'm sure folks who are looking to get into the media space will really appreciate that insight. So now you said that you're in radio. How'd you make that decision to transition into that? Because that feels like a big jump from like TV, look at me, and producing.
Oh, don't say TV, look at me. It is not. Oh, no.
Well, I mean, like being in the front, right? Being in the front is what I mean. All the way to like being in the back where people can't see you. Because and the reason why I think about that is because when I speak to Tariq, he's always like 30% chance going to make a joke about, he's, shy and behind the mic and not out there, So I'm curious, why did you make that transition?
Well, I just decided to take a break from TV last year. I don't know, like sometimes you just kind of feel that you need a shift. And hopefully I can plan to go back. I'm not even sure what I want to say with that. But I decided to take a break and then took some time to myself just to kind of think and see where I wanted to go. And this position actually found me, which was so ironic. I did a story on Hyphen when I was at my old job. They sent out the press release and I said, this is super cool. Let me do a story on them. So I did a video story on them. And then months later, they were like, hey, if you're interested in a job, we have openings. And I said, well, let me see. And then here we are.
Listen, you're very good at what you do. Okay. And when you first interviewed me, that was one of my toxic traits. Okay. Super toxic. Like I'll meet somebody, a brilliant person. And instead of like the first thing be like, let's be friends. Like, let's make money together.
No, and I'm here for that, honestly, which is why I love media too, because one of my biggest words is access. And whatever you want to do, you need to find the thing that gives you the access to do it and make sure that you excel and you are focused at what you do. And so when we talk about like, you want to be friends with people, that's why I love being in media, because I get to be in spaces that I won't say the normal, but like the general public doesn't get to go. And not everybody is wanting to do that or suited for that, but because there are challenges that come with being in media. But you get to meet folks and then be friends with them and make money with them, do whatever. So it just it expands your world. And I loved it. I love it.
Yes.
Can't even get it out because I'm so excited.
No, it's one of the first things that I noticed when you were interviewing me. I think it was for 889 or Hyphen a year or two back, my real estate project.
Oh, the second time? Yeah, because the first time was when I was in TV.
Oh, that's right. Oh my goodness. Yes. Yep. I have experienced you from both sides actually. And yes, and I think the thing that kind of stood out to me is just like how relaxed you made me feel, because I was like always just real, a little antsy and nervous. And then when I got in front of you, it was just very much like I was having like conversations with my girl over tea. And I'm like, that is a skill, whether you know it or not. You're very good at it. And so it does not surprise me at all that, Hyphen would be like, okay, that's our girl. That's how it works. So you have that star quality about yourself, which is great. And we're going to give you all your flowers.
I'm just going to
receive it. Right, receive it. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So you're in this new radio space, and what's cool about Hyphen, I love to watch the journey of Hyphen, is that it is kind of very much a startup.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is.
And what I believe is that this is my opinion. I believe that for the most part, every company should see themselves with a tech angle and a media angle. And so while my company, Jack Constellations and MKE Tech Hub leans heavy on tech, we still focus a lot on media as well, and storytelling and things like that. And that, I believe, is what helps to sort of keep the company alive. And so I'm curious, as Hyphen is growing, how are you guys leveraging technology to stay innovative and ahead of the game? And then I want to dabble a little bit into like just what are your views on like public radio versus other media?
Yeah, so for the first question, I'll answer it as best as I can, because I'm not the techie in the group. That is Tariq, as you know, and that's Tariq Moody, who is the director of digital of Hyphen, and also has been with Radio Milwaukee for 15, 16 years, ever since the inception of it. So he's more of the tech guy. So he makes sure that if there's something that we need to be aware of, that we at least know about it, or if there's a potential for us to uplift a platform like your own, then we can do that. And so that'll either be through social media, whether we can go in and do maybe a video with you or something like that, or maybe I can come in and I can do an interview with you or element, or, so I think that's probably the way that we use tech, is social media and then giving platforms for folks.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I've been hearing a more use of like artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI, which is fairly new to the general public, right? So people who've been in the tech space are aware that AI has been something that's just been evolving over time. Big tech has been using for so long, but now it's kind of in the hands of the everyday person with like ChatGPT and Claude and Bard, and
they're saying things that I'm not even. Some of these I know, but some I'm like, oh my God, there's so many coming up.
Yes, there are. There are so many. And so now I'm seeing messaging being curated for specific demographics using AI. So for instance, let's say you guys have like a task to figure out how to get to like Gen Z or something like that. And you might like ask AI, like, can you create copy specifically for Gen Z? Or can you create, you generate specific images or content for our social media? Now, I'm not sure that you guys have started leveraging that, or if that's something you all are interested in, but what are your thoughts on like, public radio kind of getting into that space to stay relevant?
Well, actually, I want to go back to the first question you asked about how we utilize tech. One thing that Tariq did show us, so we use Adobe for editing. We use the Adobe Suite, and they have introduced some AI to help with audio, to clean up audio. And right now it's in the beta phase, which is fantastic. So I think you can only do 15 minutes or 30 minutes. I'm not sure. Do not quote me on that. But you can only do so much per day. So that has actually been kind of helpful. We haven't really used it that much since it's new. And you can also do clean audio on the programs, which basically means you take out the ums and the ahs, like all that stuff. So that's one thing that we do, or that we at least know about. And then to the other question about how do I feel about it in public radio?
Using AI. And are you hesitant to use AI in that way?
Yes.
Tell me why.
Because I don't mind public radio and other industries using it, but you have to be careful that you still feed your mind and that you can think for yourself. Because all these programs are pulling from society, so whatever you want to see is what you're going to see. Whereas if you are out in the world, if you're talking to people, you will be able to form thoughts for yourself. That it is beneficial. And there are some people on the team who do use it to help generate ideas. I mean, I did use it. I've used it once, I'll say. I think I needed to condense. I had to write something about myself, and I don't do it. So I'm like super verbose with it. And so I needed to condense it. It did it for me, right? And so in those ways, it does help. But you have to make sure that you are still continuing to challenge yourself to think, to interact, and to be a productive member of society.
Yes, I agree. I think one of the challenges with AI right now is that storytelling. When I think of media, when I think of what you do, I think of storytelling.
That's all that it is.
And storytelling, especially for our communities, is really important. And it's one of the reasons why, I scream from the rooftops, representation matters. And so when we think about AI writing our stories or generating content for different media companies, whether it be radio or, social media, whatever it is, magazines, I know that these models are trained on data that perhaps we didn't necessarily approve of, or scraping from data on the World Wide Web that doesn't necessarily have the best perception of our communities, right? A lot of biases. And so I see more and more media companies like, typing in basic prompts like, in the voice of a Black woman that lives in the Bronx,
right?
Share XYZ or your thoughts on XYZ.
Which turns us into a monolith, which is a word it's an overused word that I don't like to say, but it's true because everybody is different.
Everybody is different. Do that. You can't. And I think we begin to lose our own voice when we heavily depend on AI. And so a couple of things that I would like to see more of with these companies that are coming up with these models is one, kind of gaining more of a sense of how are these models being trained, and is there a standardized way to make sure that there is less biases, and how do we hold media accountable to make sure that they're not overusing or abusing AI to the point where their audience or their listeners can't really discern or figure out if this is generated by an actual human. It's a story that they should lean into, or not. So I'm curious though, what are your biggest, if you have any, fears or hesitations around all the things that are happening with AI?
I think one of my biggest fears is just it's going to incite, I don't know. It's just going to encourage and lean in heavily to people's biases or biases. And again, whatever they want to hear and whatever they want to see is what's going to happen. I mean, and people use media that way too. People turn on or read or subscribe to the things that don't necessarily always challenge them. And so my fear is that people will stop thinking that it is productive to think for yourself.
Absolutely.
And they will just lean into it and just become a little lazy. And also, I'm afraid about losing jobs too. Not to make anything political or anything like that, but there are certain things that only humans can do. And so if you're going to invest in AI, which is fine, you also need to make sure that you are either being progressive about how do we reimagine these industries so that people can actually live.
Yes.
Are we going to go to a barter system because nobody
Universal
can make money?
pay?
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you really have to figure that out because everybody wants to get so excited about this, and it deserves excitement. But there's nothing wrong with criticism. There's nothing wrong with challenging. There's nothing wrong with critique. There's nothing wrong with questioning.
Yes. So I think you're absolutely right with artificial intelligence so quickly getting into the hands of the everyday person. The issue with that is that what OpenAI and some of these other companies have done is released one of the most powerful tools since just the internet, to the general public without any sort of real regulations, right? And so with any new technology or innovation, there's always going to be good actors and bad actors. But the reality is that, like, when it comes to developing policy and regulation, historically speaking, things have been a little bit slow.
Yeah.
And here now we're in a space where I feel like every other week I'm having to learn something new about AI and what it can do, and all of this, different aspects of AI that I'm trying to educate myself so I can educate communities. And so I do think there needs to be more of a level of urgency.
Well, I mean, President Biden did that executive order, but again, how quickly is that going to go, especially when federal lawmakers can't even agree on just basic things? Yeah. I won't go into details, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we can't even get our country together. So AI is just another cherry on top.
Yes.
It's like AI is kind of like sprinkles, you know? It's like we're just one of the sprinkles.
Yes. So there's so many things to consider. But before wrapping up, though, I do want to kind of highlight the multi-dimensions of Kim Shine.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand that you are also an author.
Oh, yeah, I am.
And I think if I did my research properly, we're just passing the 1 year since you released your first book. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, my book is called, and thanks for bringing that up.
Of course.
My book is called On the Other Side of Everything. It's a book of poems based on my real life. And it's about letting people know that on the other side of everything that you're going through, anxiety, toxic people, like loss, everything, even positive things, on the other side of that, you have control over you. So if you desire peace, if you desire happiness, if you want to learn, if you want to get out there, anything that you want to do, regardless of outside factors, you control you. And so you have to focus on that. And so I hope that people, when they read each poem, that it just resonates with them. It just reminds them that we all go through this. Not the same things, but not with the same people, obviously, but we all go through stuff.
Yes.
So it's okay.
I love that. What are you doing with this? Are you going to do another book tour? Are you going to do a live event to celebrate the 1 year? How can Milky Way Tech Hub amplify?
Oh, well, I was very fortunate because one of my old college advisors reached out. So I have a speaking engagement because of the book. And that was actually something that I wanted to do, book aside. So now that the book is there, I wanted to amplify that. I want to get into more spaces where I'm talking to kids who have dealt with grief, or parents, or just family guardians who are dealing with loss, and children and teens and young people who have experienced that, to kind of let them know how to process that as a whole, whether you're the individual or whether you're the unit. So that's one goal. And then, I mean, you can just get the book too. You can get the book if you like. And yeah, really just want to make sure that folks understand that they have an outlet, and hopefully I can be a source of either like a sounding board, or maybe a source of inspiration for people to dive deeper into how to find their own peace, and how to understand that grief and loss does impact you in ways that you may not even understand. And so it's a journey, just like life is, just like dealing with AI. It's a journey. And I'm on a soapbox right now.
Do it.
For students and for kids, I just don't want people to get lazy. That is the thing that I'm really scared of when you asked about that, because you can just put in the assignment and it'll write the whole paper for you.
Yeah, we will.
But where are your thoughts? Like, what do you want to talk about? Who are you? And I think that probably is one of my biggest fears, if like not the biggest, just the loss of self.
Yeah.
The loss of the sense of self,
humanity.
And the loss of community, the loss of humanity. I don't want people, and yes, that's on the other side. Like that's a whole spectrum, right? And that's huge, like, fear. But I mean, it can happen. You never know. So just balance.
Just like with anything, there has to be balance for sure. And I agree. And I also am a witness and am actively experiencing this, where I've used ChatGPT to write emails so much, and then without internet. I'm like, okay, now I gotta sit here.
And that's a great example. Something as simple as an email, right?
How to write this email
Right?
again.
Because I'll say, even with cursive writing, I'm so mad they took cursive out of a lot of schools. What the heck is going on with that? I know.
It's wild.
And then you want, I mean, it could go into checks. How is a kid going to sign their name on a check? Not a kid, but you know what I'm saying? How do you sign your name on a check? Like that, it's just...
They don't.
Yeah, it's a domino effect. But going back to your point with an email, yeah, like I realized I was on the computer so much. I grabbed a pen one time and like my hand was shaking because I'm like, how the heck do I write? Like I hadn't written in so long, you know?
Yes.
So it's just
and I think
simplest things.
That's the hazard, I think, as technology continues to advance. I can't tell you how frustrated, speaking of dads, my dad gets when he's like, take me so-and-so. And I'm like, okay, let me just type this into you. And he's like, you don't know where you are? How old are you? And I'm like, when I started driving, there was already the Google Maps app.
Man.
And so I don't know what to tell you, except that I don't know where I am and I need help.
That's the same thing about the backup cameras. No, you don't need them. They are very helpful, but you should be able to feel that when you, anyway, this is why millennials, we are just in that really
right there
sweet spot.
Yep.
Because we can become our parents in 2 seconds, but we can also be like really cool and shaking it and doing everything.
Yes. We definitely have.
We're in the middle.
We are in the middle. So as we wrap things up, I am curious. I actually started to use the ChatGPT app recently. I usually, by app, I mean the mobile app. Typically, I use the web app.
Okay.
And I actually just downloaded it this week. And I guess it's okay. It's useful, I guess. But I asked ChatGPT. I have the paid version. So I believe that means that it's up to date now, January 2023.
So if you don't pay, then your stuff is out of date?
Well, so it was always out of date. So it was based on data from September 2021. And now I think, don't quote me, but I think it's January 2023 now. So at one point in time, when I first started using ChatGPT, it did not even know what Milky Way Tech was.
That's another discrepancy.
But it definitely knew what my competitors were. So that was interesting because we were founded before our competitors. So... storytelling, right? Why my story isn't in there in the database, but theirs is. So anywho, I just before this podcast, I asked it to share information about Hyphen, a media of 88.9. And I'm going to tell you what it says before my phone dies. It says, Hyphen is an initiative by Radio Milwaukee, which operates the station 88.9 FM. It's a platform designed to amplify Black voices and provide an outlet for Black artists, culture, and communities. Hyphen focused on a variety of music genres, cultural content, and community stories that resonate with Black audiences, offering both a streaming experience and on-air broadcasting. And as of my last update, it represented part of Radio Milwaukee's commitment to diversity and inclusion, aiming to provide a space for underrepresented artists and conversations within the community. And then it goes on for like the most current information, go to their website, basically.
That sounds great.
Did it capture it well?
I think so. And if you'd like to go to our website, Hyphen is spelled HYFIN.org. And we also have a mobile app that Tariq works on. So that's another way that we use tech. He's building the website. We do a lot of cool stuff. We're on Instagram. We're pretty much everywhere. We're on LinkedIn. HYFIN.org.
I love it. Do you want to test really quick what it might say about your book?
Sure.
What was the name of it again?
On the Other Side of Everything. I don't know how much traction I have on the book, but we'll see. There are a few things.
The Other Side of Everything. Wonderful name, by the way. By Kimberly Shine or Kim Shine?
It is Kimberly, yeah.
Kimberly is your artist name. Shine. Oh. Tell me about On the Other Side of Everything. Kimberly Shine. Let's see if it finds it.
I'm curious now. I've actually never done that. Just Googled it. So
it does not have anything on the Other Side of Everything by Kimberly Shine.
And you know why?
Why is that?
Because it hasn't updated it.
Okay. It hasn't updated it just yet. Okay. So this makes me feel a way like Milky Way Tech Hub. Because how do we get a hold of OpenAI to make it aware of all of the different
to be honest
amazing stuff that's happening in Milwaukee?
Like, I think that if you want to lean in on that and make that your barometer of success, that's great. For me, it's not. For me, it's the work that I do. I'd rather if you just Google, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? You can find my book on Google and that'll be great. Or you can just find the work that I do on there. So for me, it's about getting in the community, figuring out how to amplify voices that aren't, and just making sure to create peace around me. You said I'm calm. That's the energy that I want to.
Energy is great.
Yes, that is the energy that I want to share with others.
Emit.
And make sure that people just figure out what they want to do and just go after it respectfully.
And so we so appreciate people like you, Black women in the field of media, for helping us to amplify the Black stories, because AI don't know nothing, don't know everything, and it certainly doesn't know how to amplify our stories. And so it's so important for us to have folks like you in the space that can help. And you have most certainly uplifted the stories of Milky Way Tech Hub, especially when AI didn't know we existed, right? And even with Google, right? Because SEO is a real thing.
It's like, who cares about AI? You got the governor, you got, the White House. Who cares about AI? You see what I'm saying? AI doesn't matter right now.
Exactly.
Okay? We'll wait till it catches up. When it catches up, we'll be like, you're late.
It needs to catch up.
Like, you're late. Like, you're late to the party, but it's okay. You can still come in. But you got to pay a cover, though. But you're all right.
I like that. But you have most certainly amplified us and helped us to get our stories out. So I just wanted to again give you flowers and say thank you for all that you do in the community.
Thank you.
And that's where we'll wrap up.
How was that?